It's a bit late now, but I probably wouldn't have took snooker up either. I'm being honest with you. I mean, I always say to young kids and their parents come up to us, I said, don't let them play. I'm not supporting that. It's a bad sport. It can cause you a lot of damage.
You've called Barry Hearn's management of snooker a dictatorship. Do you think things can change?
Probably not.
Have you ever been offered a bribe? Is match fixing a big thing?
I've probably had much more lows than I've had highs.
What makes me sad hearing that is that's like your prime, 19 to 25.
Yeah, this geezer's having an orgasm, you know what I mean? Like, he's been with his missus for 20 years, he's forgot what it's like to have an orgasm.
Hi, I'm Rob Moore and welcome to The Disruptive Entrepreneur. So in this exclusive interview, we have the greatest snooker player of all time, Ronnie O'Sullivan. He really opens up about his life, about his depression, and about his snooker legacy. Ronnie gives insider snooker secrets. He talks about Barry Hearn, Steve Davis, Stephen Hendry, John Higgins, you name it. So if you want more disruptive interviews like this, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. Ronnie, thanks for doing the interview.
No, great to be here, Rob, you know. Yeah, it's been good getting to know you and through Pete Cohen and stuff like that. So yeah, find it we meet and get to chat.
Yeah, likewise. So I know you're interested in a lot more things than snooker. Yeah. And I know you're often keen to talk about them.
Yeah.
Running, you know, obviously the health and fitness has been a big part. You've written a lot of books. So let's start with that. Talk about your non-snooker related interests and what you love to do. Yeah,
I think I've kind of got that like restlessness sort of gene in me sometimes, you know. If I do the same thing for too long, I kind of just get a little bit bored. So I've always found that the best way for me to get through stuff is just to have loads of little distractions going on. And, you know, whenever one's kind of getting a bit sort of boring, if you like, then I've always got something quickly to replace that little bit of excitement. It's like, I think I need a little bit of adrenaline or something, some bit of chaos going on just to keep me going, you know, keep me on my toes. So I found doing different things, and not just anything, but just stuff that I'm interested in and that I'm passionate about, the more I can kind of incorporate that into my life, the better my life is really. So, and it gives you more options as well, you know, you're not just one-dimensional.
Yeah, and do you think that actually inadvertently helped longevity of your snooker career? Because at times when you might have wanted to go, I don't want to do this, you had other things in your life to fall back on.
Yeah, I think if I never had all the other things sort of going on in the background, I probably wouldn't be playing snooker on the tour, because it's a bit of a, you know, it's a tough life. The rewards are not fantastic, and you kind of just think, all we've got is time. And for me, it's like, you know, I need to make most of that time, and you know, I'm quite selfish in what I want to do. So like if I want to run, keep fit, or spend time with friends, I would always do that over work, you know. So for me, it kind of, it's enabled me to kind of enjoy snooker and treat it more like a hobby. Although it's, when I say a hobby, most people think, well, a hobby is like, you know, it's something you do away from your work. But for me, I've got to that point now where I love to play and I love to compete and I love to see where I'm at against my other competitors, and that's the buzz. It's, I remember one guy once said, I'm married and I've got this wonderful wife, and he was an attractive guy to the opposite sex, and he said, I just get a buzz out of knowing that I could probably get it on with her. And I think I'm a little bit like that with snooker. I get a buzz out of knowing that if I really wanted to, I could dominate whoever there is that happens to be playing the game. And I think that's a kind of, it's a nice buzz, you know, and I like to keep that. So I've got a little toolbox, and I like to keep that toolbox, that tool sharpened. So just in case I decide to get excited about playing, it's kind of there, and I could perform, you know.
Okay, great. So I thought we'd try something a bit different today.
Yeah.
And do sort of like 3 rounds.
Okay.
So round 1 will be all your non-snooker related interests.
Okay.
Round 2 will be the snooker related world, and then we'll do quick fire towards the end. Although not one of those one-word answer interviews.
No.
This isn't the BBC. So running, I know running's huge for you.
Yeah.
And you've written quite a few books, and yet none of them seem to be on snooker. So writing and running seem to be 2 big interests for you.
Yeah, running was just I kind of like fell into it accidentally, if you like. I never liked running, and I kind of still don't really. I always kind of get this fear that I dread the thought of having to go out and do a hard track session. Going for a little plod around the forest, I can kind of just, you know, it's not too bad. So it's never been something, but it's been so good to me over the years that it's really hard for me to turn my back on it. You know, I love the community aspect of running. You know, it's probably one of the only things that when you turn up to meet other runners, like no one's interested in what you do for a job or career. It's just about, you know, that gets dropped at the door and you just put your trainers on, you go out, and it's a great social sort of way. And most, probably 99.9% of runners are just really not materialistic people either. So for me, it's great to be around as many of them type of people as I can, because in my world and in a lot of this Western world, it is kind of like, you know, a lot of people seem to, it's like a social climbing sort of world that you can kind of get caught up in, which I don't really like. So for me, it just kind of gets me away from that part of life that I don't like and into more of the life that I do like, you know. So running's been massive, yeah. Running's huge for me. I had 10 years where I couldn't really run properly either, so that was kind of like difficult because I had a lot of injuries and I had a lot going on in my personal life. So I kind of didn't really do much of it. But obviously since the lockdown happened, gymnasiums was closed. There wasn't much you could do really other than just exercise outside. So one of my friends, Eric, who I kind of lost contact really for 10 years, I phoned him. I said, look, you know, I'm a bit of a loose end here. I've got a lot of time on my hands, you know. So he said, come, we'll go for a run over the forest. We'll go nice and easy. And I think it took me an hour to do 5 miles. And I was like, oh, really? I mean, I used to do 5 miles in 27 minutes, and now it's taking me an hour.
We all used to, didn't we?
Yeah, you know, I mean, it was like 10 years ago as well. And I was thinking, I can't imagine being able to run 5 miles in 30 minutes again, you know. And here I am, like 5 miles in an hour. So I was like, wow. But just slowly and slowly, I just kind of just stuck at it, and the times, you know, got a little bit faster, and you know, so I felt a little bit better about myself. And I always like to say, for me now, running has to be about the benefits of running, because obviously, you know, snooker can be quite mentally exhausting, and I kind of always like to, you know, I look around at a lot of snooker players, you know, because I live on the tour and you see people's lives, and you know, I don't talk to them all the time, but you always get a feeling of what a guy is up to in his life, you know. And I think a lot of snooker players have to have an addiction to kind of cope with playing snooker, because it can be really quite a mentally demanding sport. And you know, some people drink, food, gamble, they play computer games, and it's just a way of kind of just trying to sort of cope with the demands, if you like, of being a professional snooker player. For me, running and keep fit was that addiction, you know. So yeah, running has been massive for me, and you know, I owe a lot to it. And yeah, and hopefully I can just keep going. Now I'm 45 and I feel the fittest I have for 10 years. And yeah, so yeah, no, I'm really yeah, I'm a huge sort of health freak, if you like. You know, I was so unhealthy for so long, maybe from, you know, when I was like 10 up to like 25, that I think, you know, I've kind of like, it's like Benjamin Button, I'm doing it the opposite way around, you know. I've kind of like started getting into keep fit later, whereas in my early part of my life I was hamburgers, chips, tomato ketchup, down the snooker club, you know, put on a bit of weight, but I could play snooker. So yeah, but I think after I come out the Priory, I realised that, you know, I've got this addictive nature, and it's up to me now how, I'm never going to get rid of that addiction, and I always like to think it's a good driving force in my life. So, you know, as long as I channel it into the right direction, then with that, like that sort of drive, if you like, you know, you can do pretty good things, you know.
So I understand you said to the Victoria Derbyshire, I love a breakdown as it spurs me to fight back. So what do you mean by that? Just want to pick up on one thing. I know I said the snooker would be the second round, but it was interesting you said about the demands of snooker. And some people who don't get the sport might look at it and go, well, you're just walking around a table potting balls. It's not exactly very exerting. So can you give us a bit of a flavour for the demands that snooker puts on you?
Yeah, because it's a lonely sport. You know, you're on the road a lot. It's quite a technical sport as well. you're also sitting in your chair a lot. So when you're sitting in your chair and your opponent's at the table, there is nothing you can do. So you have a lot of time to think, you know, and it's what you do with that thinking time which kind of determines how you do when you do eventually get back to the table. So, you know, I think sometimes being blessed with too much talent in sport, not just snooker, can not be a good thing, because you kind of end up getting a bit lazy and relying on talent to get you through. And I kind of done that for most of my career, and it wasn't until I started working with Ray Reid and people like Steve Peters that I started to appreciate that, you know, for me to become as good as I am today, I needed to work on them other areas, because if things were going well for me, then it was great. But if it wasn't, I was like, oh, I don't want to get out of here, pack my bags, I can be home Thursday, do a bit of running Friday, Saturday, lovely, you know. And that was me giving up, if you like, you know, not giving up, but me just saying, I just haven't got the fight in me. And I think, yeah, the demands of snooker can be tough, you know, because it's quite a lonely, mental, a lot of technique is involved, and then also you're watching some players that make the game look really easy, and that can be quite demoralising in itself. So then you start to compare yourself to others, you know, which is not a good thing to do, because, you know, it depends who you're comparing yourself against. If you compare yourself against someone that's not as good, then it's a good thing. But if you're comparing yourself to someone like John Higgins, you know, you're never going to feel good about your game, because for me, he's the most complete snooker player. So it's just being careful with the thoughts that you're allowed to come in your head, really. So yeah, I just think it's a tough sport in a way, you know.
What really interests me is probably nearly every other snooker player might look at you and go, you make the game look really easy.
Yeah, and I think I obviously do, you know. And I was like, sometimes you sit there and you wonder what it is about me and certain people in sport that make people want to watch you play, and in some ways, you know, you kind of get the impression that why do I stand out from every other snooker player? Why does Messi stand out from every other footballer? Why does Roger Federer stand out from Djokovic and Nadal? And it can't be because of they've achieved more in the game. I just think it's the way that they do it. So if you watch Federer play tennis, you think it's really different to how Nadal and Djokovic play, you know, and you watch Messi play football, you think, well, no one plays like that, you know. Everyone's, it's like a physical sport, you know. Whereas when Messi does it, it's like a dance, it's like a rhythm, it's like, you know, and Federer's the same. And I think probably I'm the same in snooker. It's like, you know, my records are great, but no better than Stephen Hendry's, not much better than John Higgins. But I just think people, when they watch me play, they go, you know, nobody does it like that, you know. It's a bit like Muhammad Ali in boxing. It's like, you can watch all the heavyweights you like, you know, but when you watch Muhammad Ali, you're like, wow, this guy makes the sport look different, you know. And I think probably that's the thing that's kind of why the snooker fans, if you like, have really taken to me over the years, you know. That's the only thing I can put it down to, really.
And if you could summarise how you play the game differently to anyone else, how would you do that?
I think what it is that I don't rely on power, I don't rely on potting mad balls, I don't rely on, you know, playing long safety battles. My game is all around, you know, controlling that cue ball. And, you know, I'm very rarely, you know, like they always say, if you can be that far from your next ball, then every pot should be easy. It's when the white's that far away that the pots become missable. And I think most people that have played the game realise how difficult it is just to pot a ball, let alone try and get on the next ball. But when you're potting a ball and I'm getting on the next ball really close, I think a lot of people just go, wow, that's really not easy to do. And you probably wouldn't appreciate that unless you actually played on a full-size table. So I think I wouldn't say I was the best potter in the world. I'm not the best safety player in the world. I'm probably not the best at anything, you know, in any area. But what I am good at is getting that white ball from A to B and making the game easy, if you like. And I think a lot of people just think, God, I wish I could make it look that easy. And it doesn't always feel that easy, but there are times when I think, yeah, I'm going to clear up here. You know, like even like when the maximum, when on the second red, I said, what's the highest break for 147? I just knew it was going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, I might have missed, but I just thought, you know what? Yeah, that's well doable. And I just think that, you know, there's not really many snooker players that could have had, it's not confidence, but believe that they could do that, because it's not an easy game. But I just feel it, I just feel that, it's going to happen, So I think that's what people like about the way I play the game, maybe,
Yeah. So we've done a lot of research for this interview, but I always like to check research.
Okay.
So I understand from our research that you have struggled when you were younger with a bit of depression. So first off, is that true? And then if it is, how did you beat the demons?
I always call it snooker depression. And when I was younger, I used to just love the game, and obviously I'd get down on myself if I didn't play well. But then I think when I got to about 17, 18, I kind of started to get a lot of doubt and started to compare myself to, say, someone like John Higgins. And I used to look at John Higgins and think, I wish I could play snooker like him. He's just like the perfect player. He had everything: great temperament, great technique, great scoring, great safety. And I thought, how am I going to stay with this guy for the next 30 years? This geezer's an animal on a snooker table. We all knew how good John Higgins was when he was 14. And, and I always had the dream that I wanted to be like Steve Davis. I wanted to be this serial winner of multiple world championships, and I thought, this isn't going to happen because I've got John Higgins in my way. Can someone just get rid of him, please? Make my life a lot easier. But that wasn't going to happen, so I kind of had to improve, if you like. The game that I come in as a professional wasn't good enough to sustain it over long periods of time. So in a way, although people go, oh, you make the game look easy, it was really hard for me because I was playing like machines. Every time I come up to someone, they would just it's like playing Chelsea. They'd park the bus, they wouldn't attack, they'd set traps for me. I would always go for it, leave them in, and they'd go, he's a great player and talented, but he gives you chances. And I was like, and it wasn't until I started working with like Ray Reardon and people like that that I started to change my game. And I've had to develop as a snooker player over years, and with that development came a much stronger belief. So I would start to win matches that I would usually lose. So like when I said to you, come Thursday, I'm not playing well, I'm out of here. But when I started to work with Ray Reardon and learn the defensive side of the game, I started to win them matches. So now I'm getting through this game Thursday, I'm still here Friday, and then I started to win a lot more tournaments. And but it's like I had to learn another side of the game, which I would never have appreciated because I just didn't know how to play that defensive game, and John Higgins did. So he was more gifted as he was the complete pro even at 14. Me, I was just a potter. But just being a potter isn't enough to dominate your sport, no matter how good a potter you are, because some days they just don't go in, and then what do you do then? Do you go, okay, it's not my day, or do you find another way of kind of getting the job done? And that's kind of been a hallmark of my career, really, is just trying to become a better match player, not a better player, just a better match player, and learning how to hustle it out sometimes,
So if you want behind the scenes interviews, live masterclass courses, Ask Me Anything lives, and many other great benefits that are behind the scenes, join my platform rob.team. Right now it's at rob.team or link in the description. Right, let's get back to the interview with Ronnie O'Sullivan. So are you saying, let me see if I can get this right, that the depression that you experienced was if you didn't play well or comparing yourself to other people? Would that be a fair?
100%,
Yeah.
100%, because like all I had ever done was snooker, and that's all I ever wanted to be. I looked up at Steve Davis and I analysed how he played, I analysed how he hit the ball, the noise, the sound it made, the angle it come off, why he could soft stun a ball in, and so I was kept very obsessive about. I used to watch someone play, and I think the only reason why he's getting that ball in there and that white round is because of how his cue action is, and I know I've done interviews talking about cue actions. Everyone thought I was taking the mickey, but really, the better the cue action you got, the more options you've got on the table. So if you're hitting that spot and you're in the zone and you're finding that slot regular, it's actually a really easy game. But one day you wake up and you're not in the slot, and you just think, you start to panic a bit, because the other guy might be in his zone, and you think, well, hold on, I'm playing like I'm not on it, but he is. I'm going to lose today. So you kind of, start to panic a bit, and I think you kind of and that's when the kind of negative depression sort of thoughts come in, and you start to doubt yourself, you start to overanalyze, you start to overthink stuff. And I think over the years I've had to learn to not overanalyze, to not overthink, to just trust myself, to kind of just forget that I've just played a bad shot or had a bad game, and just kind of just get back on the bike and just accept that, you know, snooker, I'm never going to be able to be perfect at snooker, but what I can do is I can kind of forget what's gone on in the past and just kind of just get back on the bike and start, you know, one shot at a time sort of thing, you know.
Yeah. Did you at one point get quite into, was it Buddhism?
Yeah.
Because that sounded a little bit Buddhist, what you said there, in a way. What got you into that, and how did that help you?
I think what kind of got me into that was I went into a rehab, I think it was in 2000. I was having some problems with drinking and smoking a bit of dope at the time and stuff like that. And I kind of got to a point where it wasn't fun, it wasn't really giving me the release that it did when I first started. And I kind of thought I need to really knock this on the head, because obviously, you know, I was getting drug tested quite a lot as a player, and I thought, you know, this dope stays in the system for like 30 days, you know, so like I was starting to have to miss tournaments, miss events, just because I thought I might get tested, and I'd rather not play than get tested again for cannabis, because I got done once for it. And so I was kind of like, I thought I'm screwed here. Unless I find a way to get off this weed and this beer, I'm like, you know, maybe it's time to retire. And I was only like 24, and I thought, what else am I going to do in my time? I only know how to play snooker. It's not like I could go and do anything else. So I stuck myself in, well, I didn't stick myself into a rehab, somebody else did. I thought, that's a bit harsh though, you know, like, I thought that was for hardcore addicts, you know, and but for me it was probably the best thing I ever done, you know, so I got a month off of everything, came out, and I've never looked back really, and part of the process of kind of getting well, if you like, was to try and find a higher power. A lot of people went to religion. I thought, I'm not really down with rules, you know, I'm not good with rules. So I thought, anyone telling me that I've got to do this and do that and do this and do that, I was like, you know, but I tried it, and I can see why people like it, and it can work. It can work for some people. It can work for some people, but it just wasn't going to work for me. So Buddhism was kind of like I don't know, it was something that I thought maybe kind of could give me some structure, give me some peace, because I needed a bit of peace of mind, you know, within this snooker depression, within this sport that I really think is a tough sport, what it is for me, some people it might not be. I need to find that little bit of inner peace, you know, that place where I can take myself to and just kind of like feel all right about myself, you know, whether I play well or not. If I can take myself to that place where I think, you know, life's okay, then I'm able to probably cope with the demands of snooker. So Buddhism was a good one for me, because it allowed me to just kind of just try and just find that contentment without handing my life over to this higher power that already had the plan made, you know. So for me, when I looked at like a God in a way, I kind of thought, if he's already made the decisions, what's the point of me putting in the effort? I mean, I could try really hard here all day, and yet he's already made the decision. And that really bothered me. But with Buddhism, there was none of that. It was just like, you just find your own peace, your own rhythm, and kind of like, you still have an element of control of what the outcome can be, you know. I never like to feel like that I have no control out of the outcome of any situation. So Buddhism worked really well for me, and I still kind of hold on to some of them teachings, you know, because sometimes...
What was the main teachings you got from it?
I think what it was just about, you know, like you'd have, let's say you have three people, one person you didn't really like, one that was neutral, and one that you really liked, and you kind of wish them all the same sort of happiness, the same sort of good luck, and this, you know, so you kind of like, let's say there'd be people on a snooker tour that I'd think, oh, I really can't stand him. But I'd have to start wishing him really happiness for him and his family. And actually, it made me feel a lot more okay with him, you know. And in the end, I had a better relationship with this guy. So I totally bought into it in a way, you know, because why wouldn't you want to wish someone well, you know? Because I didn't get on well with him, you know, he's still a father, he's still a husband, he's still got his own life going on. So, and and when I was holding maybe a grudge against that person, it was only damaging me. He probably didn't really care, you know what I mean?
You might not have even known.
Well, I think he did.
Oh.
Yeah, I kind of let him, you know, I kind of have a good way of letting people know that, you know, I'm not, you know, I'm not going to suffer their bullshit, really. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm a lot better at suffering people's bullshit now, but I just pacify them now. I just kind of go, oh yeah, okay, cool. Whereas before I'd be like, oh, do you know what I mean? I want them to know that I think they're not that I'm not really down with them. So, but no, I'm a lot more gentler now, and also I think as well with faults, like I was talking about faults in snooker. You know, you can kind of grab onto them, but with Buddhism, it's kind of like you don't try and get rid of them, but it's like a conveyor belt. Imagine like an Amazon of parcels going by. Every one of them parcels is a different fault, yeah. But you just let them go, and you look at them, and they go, and they go, and it's like you're training your mind to just kind of not deny them, but I'm not grabbing at them. You know, I'm not going to let them take hold of me. So you know, it's a little bit like a Navy SEAL. You're training yourself to be able to perform under the most extreme pressures, and a lot of the stuff you do off the table benefits you on the table. So you kind of, as a sportsman, you always perform your best when you're content, you're relaxed, but you're ready to fight. You know, you have to be ready to fight, because if you haven't got that fighting spirit in you, then you can never really dominate your opponent, you know, because it's a tough world, you know, it's a tough sport, any sport, and only the fittest survive. So, you know, I never try to deny that fight in me, because that fight has got me through my career and has made me a tenacious, competitive opponent, and that's what's, you know, that's the most important thing. But within that, I think you can kind of do it and have peace as well, you know.
Mm. So we found you saying that, and again, correct me if these are right or wrong.
Yeah.
I was the king of self-sabotage. Is that something you said, and what did you mean by that?
I didn't know it. I really didn't know it until I started working with Steve Peters. And then he went to one of the first times we met. He said, you know, you go into sabotage mode, and I was like, wow, I do. And it's like I said to you, like I get to Thursday and I'm like, I'm out of here. But that's sabotage. That wasn't. I mean, Steve calls it the chimp, so you got the human and the chimp, and my chimp would be like, you know what, I can't stand the pressure, I'm not going to beat this guy, even if I get through this match, I'm going to lose on Friday, I might as well lose today, I might as well, you know, go home, have a few drinks, you know, have a barbecue, you know, so that's a form of sabotage, because I was grabbing on to them faults, yeah. and I believed they were really real, and it wasn't until after the game, so just say I've sabotaged the game, I'd get back to my room, I'd feel really, you know, all right about it, but then an hour later I'd thinking, what an idiot, you know, I wish I could have tried a bit harder, I could have stuck in that match, and I'm quite gutted that I'm not going to be playing tomorrow. Yeah. And it was kind of, I was allowing that sabotage faults to take over, and since working with Steve Peters, he's made me realise that that's all bollocks, you know, them sabotage faults are not me, that's just the pressure, the situation, and that's me just going, I'm running for the exit door. Now I don't run for the exit door, I go, yeah, things might not be going for me, but I'm here to fight. And I'm here to fight to the last ball, and if I lose, I shake my opponent's hand and I go, you know what, well done, you've done well. So I've got no regrets. And I think pre-working with Steve Peters, I was sabotaged 13 times a year. And then the other...
You've got like a system?
Yeah. 13 times I would bail out. I'd go, right, I'm going for the exit door. I wouldn't say I'm going for the exit door, but that was what it is, fight, flight or freeze. And I would freeze, or I would flight. I'd be like, I'm out of here. And since working with Steve Peters, which has been 10 years now, it's a decade, which is a long time, and he's one of my favourite humans. I love him, I really, really do. And he's helped me so much. I reckon I've sabotaged maybe 4 or 5 times in them 10 years. So that's a lot. So if you say like 13 times a year times 10, that's 130 sabotages. I've cut 130 down to 5 sabotages.
That's good skills.
So, and it just shows in the amount of tournaments that I've won since working with Steve Peters, because I've just learned to just fight, you know, and stay calm. Fight and stay calm. You know, and that's really what sabotage is all about, you know, and I just apply it into a lot of other things that I do in life, because, you know, I don't like too much hard work. I sometimes want to run away from it, but now I just face it and realise that if I do my best, that's enough, you know. And if my best is not good enough today, my best might be good enough the next day. So you just kind of have to just keep just showing up, really, you know. Really, I've changed so many things. I think my dad going away fucked me up, really. He was my anchor. I just thought, fuck, I've got no one to put me in line. I can just do what I like when I like. I had a bit of money, no one could tell me what to do.
Steve Peters' book was, for years, kept me off number one. Bastard, Steve Bastard Peters. I used to look at there all the time.
I would love to come second to Steve Peters.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
I seriously, that guy is unbelievable.
Yeah,
and,
I mean that was a great book.
Yeah, I mean he's So, yeah, I know you've kind of like got your own sort of thing going on, but it's
maybe I need to.
You're in great company. You're in great company.
Into my head.
Well, no, listen. I think you and Steve are very similar. You kind of got this good aura, this sort of, you know, you're very positive without being positive, if that makes sense. You know, Steve Peters said to me within the first 10 minutes, I'm not going to tell you to think positive because that don't work. And I was like, what? All the people I've been saying is like, be positive. And I thought, oh God, I couldn't stand that because it was just too fake, too Americanized. I'm an Englishman. I love to be a little bit negative. I love to sort of dwell in my own pity sometimes, you know what I mean? But now I'm aware of it, and I don't have to dwell in it so much, you know. And so I think, yeah, like Steve's been great, and yeah, like I say, you're in good company there, you know.
Yeah, I'm only playing a great book. Great book. Right, so we've got another one here, another Ronnie quote. So I understand you said to the Victoria Derbyshire, I love a breakdown as it spurs me to fight back. So what do you mean by that?
Well, like I said, I had so many. What I do, because I always like to say pre-Steve Peters and post-Steve Peters, because there's two different models there. The one pre-Steve Peters was breakdown, spiral, so I'd spiral so much, so low, but my low was still quarterfinals, last 16, still a top 4 player, you know, out, drinking, partying. I always knew when to rein it in, and you know, I'd go running, keep fit. I kind of managed it. But I would kind of like know that once I was on a down, I'd go, right, well, I can't stop this. It's gonna last about 3 weeks, this spiral. So I just used to go with it. But I knew at the end of the 3 weeks, I'd go so low that the only way out was to go up. And it was like, how do I time the low to then go, right, I want to be up for this tournament. So in a way, I'd kind of like, I wouldn't win so much because I thought I haven't got the ability or the strength to continuously win. So I'd pick certain tournaments that I'd want to do well in, like the World Championships, the UKs, the Masters. And I'd always say in the tournaments before, don't win them. Even if I thought I could, don't win them because you don't want to waste your wins. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't want to win the British Open. I don't want to win this whatever the tournament is. I want to win the UK. I want to win the world. I want to win that one. So I would kind of not bail out of the quarters, but go, you know what, my game's okay, I'm in good shape, you know, and I would kind of approach my tournaments like that. So
would you ever like try less hard in a match to help you go out?
Well, I would kind of, it was more of like a subconscious thing, yeah. So like I kind of think, well, like quarters is enough. Semis is, don't get to the final. Don't get to the final because you don't want to lose finals. Semis, you don't really, that's not a nice match to lose because you're one away from the final. Quarters is not a bad place to lose because you're kind of under the radar, no one really talks about it. The tournament kind of gets going at the quarters, so you kind of feel like I've invested enough but I haven't wasted it either. You know, I get 2 or 3 days at home ready for the tournament the next week. So it was kind of like, that was my like way of thinking in a way, and it kind of worked for me in a way, but I probably wasn't getting as many wins consecutively, so I never believed I could go back to back, win one tournament one week, win a tournament next week, and win a tournament next week. I'd never done it, so I thought, well, if I've never done it, that's just my style, you know. So I had to kind of like pace myself and try and sort of peak at the right times, and yeah, when the spiral came and the breakdown came, it was like, okay, suffer it for 3 weeks, but once you come out of it, you've got 3 weeks of flying back up to the top, you know. Yeah. So that was my kind of way of kind of dealing, of just knowing your own behaviours and knowing your own patterns, really. But obviously, since working with Steve Peters, I've turned that around, and now I believe I can win week after week. there is a limit on it, and if I've won 3 or 4 tournaments on the bounce, I'm gone. You know, I don't even want to look at a snooker table, let alone play and get competitive and get juiced up. So, you know, I always think, you know, I can win one tournament one week, another the next week, maybe the third week. Come the fourth, I might win it, but there's no fun in it. You know, I'm kind of done. You know, probably could do with a holiday, sitting on the beach for 3 or 4 weeks before I actually want to look at another snooker table. But yeah, I don't have the breakdowns as much now, and I think I have a much better balance. So like when we spoke before, I have lots of other different interests. So there's a lot of distractions, but good distractions going on, which kind of like allow me to relax a bit more and not just think snooker's the be and end all, because you know it can be tough when something just becomes all consuming, really, you know. Yeah.
I'm loving this.
Yeah.
I'm loving this.
Yeah.
Right, we've got some snooker. I mean, I know of course snooker is a big part of your life, but we'll move now into the more specific snooker round. Your interview, so as deep or as quick as you want to go on this. How do you want your snooker career to be remembered?
Like I said, you know, at the beginning, I think I look at certain sports people, and you kind of just think, right, well, if I'm going to die next week, I've got to have a tombstone, I've got to have, you know, say a few words. I'd probably say, like, you know, I like to be remembered as someone that played the game in a swashbuckling style, with finesse. No other player has probably played with the same sort of style or panache, if you like, or whatever it is. You know, it's, you know, I'm just making words up here that other people use. It's not me that's saying that. And I just kind of, sometimes I look back on some of my YouTube stuff and watch myself play, and the person that I'm watching, I just think, is that really me? Because I don't feel that person. When I'm out there, I just feel like I'm just doing it and it's coming, and you're just kind of battling, and you know, even when you're playing well and you're flying, you think, I'm still really having to hold it together. You know, it's not something that just, it's not like we're down a club and you're hitting balls and you don't care if you miss. Every time you're on the match table, it's like, even when you're playing your best, you sort of like got to still hold it together, because any lapse of concentration, the game never forgives you, and then you kind of like hand that to your opponent. So I think just sort of like being able to be as successful as I was, which was unbelievable, and that's all I ever wanted to do as a youngster, was to have the titles. I've managed to do that, but then I think what separates me from Stephen Hendry and Steve Davis is the style of play I've done it in. No snooker player, well, there isn't, no snooker player has played the way I've played, which is very attacking, you could say, and had the victories that I've had. So I think for that reason, I kind of stand out from every other snooker player that's ever played the game. They had Jimmy White, made 6 finals, Alex Higgins won 2 world titles, but neither of them really dominated the sport like I did. And I kind of think, like I said a bit earlier, the more talented you are, the harder it is to dominate any sport. I think sometimes the talent can make you a bit lazy, and sometimes it's nice to have talent, but you sometimes really have to work at it and develop as a player. And if you're that talented, you kind of think, well, I don't need to develop, because you know, I can pot everything. Really, there's many facets to snooker. So I think that's how I'd like to be remembered, as probably someone like Muhammad Ali was in boxing, Lionel Messi, Maradona was in football, Roger Federer was to tennis, Phil Taylor maybe to darts. You know, Usain Bolt was to athletics. I think I would love to think that I could kind of fit in, if there was an invite to a room upstairs when God says, right, we're all up here, and there was a little room, I could maybe knock on the door and go, do you mind if I come and have supper with you guys? And they'd go, oh yeah, you're welcome, you're one of us. You know, I'd like to think that, you know, that I'd have that invite, if you like, to that table, and not feel out of place. So for me, that's brilliant. I never thought as a kid that I would ever feel like I could fit into that little bracket, you know.
In an interview with the BBC, Ronnie, the quote, if you look at the younger players coming through, they're not that good really. Most of them would do well as half-decent amateurs, but not even amateurs, they are so bad. Was that something you said in emotion, or did you mean that, and what did you mean? Career high, career low.
Career high, I think I started with career. I think the career high for me was 2012 when I managed to win the World Championships, and that was, I'd been working with Steve Peters for a year, and I'd kind of like, before that in 2011, I was ready to retire. I'd had a lot going on off the table, and I just kind of just thought, I've had enough, you know. Like I say, I was ready for the exit door, ready to just give it all up, really. I was 35. Most snooker players beyond 35 never really done much, so I thought, well, if I'm not going to do much and I'm feeling like this, I might as well try my hand at something else, you know. And then obviously met Steve Peters, and then I kind of started playing well and enjoying it and competing and thinking, wow, this is. I'm really getting a buzz out of this, but I wasn't getting the results. And come like leading up to the World Championships, I was thinking, like, if I'm playing well, I'm feeling good and not getting the results, maybe I've tipped over that edge of where I'm kind of done, really, you know. Even my good game is probably not good enough to win, so is there any point in playing? And then come the World Championships, I just remember I got on a practice table. And the week before the World Championships, I couldn't pot a ball. I was getting whooped in practice, couldn't, you know, and I left my cue under the table, I went, stay in there, and I didn't pick my cue up for a week. And then before I went to Sheffield, I went up there, got my cue, put it in the car, thought, okay, see what happens, had no expectations. I get to the Crucible, I felt good because I hadn't played for a week, so I was like, you know, quite excited to play. Didn't want to burn myself out too much, playing crap the week before, basically. So I allowed myself that time off. Get to Sheffield, started hitting the ball, the table was nice, and then one day I come in, and everything was going in the middle of the hole. I was like, what's going on here? What's going on? I was like, I've never felt this good on a table. And I said to Les Dodd, I said, I need a new tip, mate. And he put a tip on for me. And he went, as a tip, I went, fantastic, mate. Tip might not be, it was just the way I was hitting the ball. It was ripping, it was making such a, and I thought, what is going on here? I was on the practice table for 3 hours a day because I was just enjoying playing so much. I thought, oh. And every time I got on the table, so like the World Championships is usually like 2 sessions, 3 sessions, 4 session matches. So they're long games. So you can kind of lose it in one session, but you can't win it, if that makes sense. Yeah. So it's kind of like managing your bad sessions. And every match I had what I thought was a bad session, but they were 4-all. But when I hit the money, it was 7-1, 8-0. So we'd be like 4 after the first session, and the guy's thinking, you know, we've jockeyed. You know, he's played well, I've played all right, 4-all. And I'm thinking, God, this could be a 13-10 or a 13-11. This could go the distance. Next session, I went 190, 180, and the geezer sit. And I thought, and it was just, it was so quick. And I'd come off and I think, wow, that was unbelievable. It was like I'd been fired up with some sort of vaccine or something. I don't know what, it's a good word to use there these days, vaccine. But it was like something had just been triggered in me. And every match, I basically just played 2 or 3 brilliant sessions, and basically no one got near me. And I was like, how did that happen? And then my little boy was up there, and he was only like 4 or 5 at the time. And it was always one of my ambitions was to win a tournament. Didn't have to be the world, but a tournament. And he came down and kind of shared the moment with me, because obviously I wasn't with them. You know, I had to leave that family when I was 2, so I kind of never really had that bond, or that everyday bond where you wake up with your kids. So I kind of like, I missed out on that really, and all I had was that if I do get to a final of a tournament, maybe he could come and then share in that moment where it was me and him. And then when I won it in 2012 and I knew I was over the line, I got really emotional. But I thought, I can't show any emotion here, you know what I mean? My dad always said to me, if ever you win a tournament, you mustn't cry. And I had that in my head, and I could feel myself welling up, but I didn't cry. And as it's just the most unbelievable feeling. And then little Ronnie come down there. I was in that Crucible. There was 980 people there, and I felt like king. I felt like there's no feeling. I've never had a feeling like it in my life, because I just thought I've played the best snooker I could ever play. I've dominated this tournament. I've come from nowhere. I didn't pot a ball for 2 years the previous. They was writing me off, and all of a sudden I've gone, have some of that. Have some of that. Put that in your archive. That's on YouTube for the rest of life. You tell me if there's any other snooker player that's won the World Championship like that. No chance. You know, the nearest anyone got to me was 6-7 frames. You know, it was just like, it's just, and that's not taking anything away from my opponents. I was just too good, too good for too long. And it never felt easy. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't sitting there thinking I'm 6 up, 5 up, this is easy. I was on it. You know, I had to be on it all the time. And And that was thanks to Steve Peters. You know, I never would have played that well for that long in that tournament and done it in that style without the help of him. So that for me was the most complete performance that any snooker player, 17 days in the World Championships. Maybe Hendry, but I don't even think Hendry would have in his prime been able to stay with me the way I was playing. And that's me being honest. That's me, fancying my chances against anybody that's ever played this game. On that form, I would have fancied I'd have come out on top.
Just a quick question. That's brilliant, by the way. Getting goosebumps there.
Yeah.
Quick question before we move on to the career low. Why do you think your dad said to you, never cry if you win a tournament?
He's a bit of a hard man. I think his upbringing, he was he had a tough life. He had a tough life, and I just think it's like, don't show no weakness. Never show any weakness, and that was what was drilled into me when I was younger. Don't show any weakness. I don't want to see any emotion on you. If I come in the club, don't get don't get too excited. If you've won a tournament, it's history. It doesn't matter. It's about the next one. And I was only like 9 or 10. It's a pretty intense conversation, but it was all coming from the right place. No one wanted me to be successful more than my dad. No one was more proud of me than my dad. A lot of people would look at it and go, don't you think that's a bit harsh for a 9, 10-year-old dad? Probably, but if I was to become the champion that I wanted to become, I've got to learn to be able to take that on board, deal with it, and at some point, me and my dad kind of went, look, I'm better off without you now. And that happened at about 12. And when I say better off without you, don't come and watch me play. Stay at home, I'll ring you. Yeah, Dad, I won 3-0, played good, that's it. I don't need, it wasn't beneficial for me having him in the room because I felt too much pressure to play the shots that I thought he wanted me to play. And he'd go, why'd you pot that? Why'd you do that? Why didn't you do that? Why didn't you do this? And in the end, I'm like, oh dear, I don't know. Let me just play. Do you know what I'm saying? So it kind of but he instilled this ability to perform under the most extreme pressure. And there was no pressure worse than having my dad watching me, criticising me, telling me I was no good, I was shit, everyone else was better than me, I needed to do this, I needed to do that, why did you play that shot? And in the end I was like, I could play under that, but I didn't play to my true potential. And then one day he stopped coming. He went, I've had enough, I'm not coming to watch you play. I was like, okay, I'll get to live with one of the other parents. I said, great, there's your 50 quid. Have a good day, have a good weekend. So I get me 50 quid, someone will knock at the door, I got me, I thought, oh, this is great, I've got no pressure on me, no one's going to be telling me why have I gone for this shot and that shot. And I started getting to the last 16, and then I won a tournament. And he come down about the quarterfinals. He went, you all right? And I went, yeah, I'm good. He went, all right, and he just stood there, he didn't watch me play. He went, right, I'm going now, me and your mum are going out. So I was like, lovely. Anyway, I won my first Pro-Am. I was only 12. And a Pro-Am is where pros and amateurs can play in the same competition. But I was only 12. I wasn't even, I was a junior. But not even, it's like you had under 16. To be a junior, it was like an under 16 tournament. So I was junior. And I ended up winning this Pro-Am. And I was like, how the hell have I done that? It's like I was beat the likes of Pete Rebden, Ken Dockett, who were pros by now. So they've got this little 12-year-old slapping their bums, you know what I mean? And I was thinking, this shouldn't be happening, right? And I got a cheque for £600, I got a trophy, and I thought, oh, that's it. If I never done anything after that, I'd have been so happy with just that moment. But looking back, that was like a bit of a freak thing to be able to do. So I think, learning to play under the extreme pressure that my dad kind of put me under, but it was all meant coming from the right place. And I just think the reason why not to show any emotion was his upbringing, his toughness, and his way of dealing with things. And I love the way he deals with things. I wish I had more of that in me naturally, but like I said, I've had to work on that. And I am a bit softer, I am a bit more sensitive. And my dad is quite sensitive, it's just that he's a bit more able to just hold it down. Whereas me, I just pour it all out. So I'll do an interview and I'll just say, I'm in bits, I can't handle this, oh, we'll go. And everyone's like, he's mad, he's gone. But I'm right, an hour afterwards, but I'm not very good at hiding my emotions, you know what I mean? So I've kind of had to learn that it's okay to let my emotions out, but then I also know that I recover quite quick. So someone can think I'm down, but give me an hour, I'm a different person, I'm ready to go again. So I think, that was probably the reason why that kind of come from my dad. But like I say, it was all meant in a good way, if that makes sense. You know, who wants to see a geezer win and just keep crying anyway? Listen, when Federer does it, it's cute because like, he's super cool. But if I was Swiss, maybe I could make that look good. But I'm not. I probably look like a sad human being. So yeah.
And you're right talking about your career low?
Yeah, my career low. It's because I've had so many. I've probably had much more lows than I've had highs. It's only because I think with the highs you kind of get into a rhythm of it, and you kind of take it for granted, you know, that you're in a good place, and it's like, you know, yeah, you kind of like I say, you trained in a way, whereas it just sort of becomes like getting out of bed, brushing your teeth, and you kind of like, it all falls into place. Whereas my lows were just, they were like really dark sort of places, and I just remember having like a continuous 6 years of a dark place. Yeah. I had a continuous 5 years from the age of 19 to 24. It was pretty dark, and then I had a little spell from 2008, 2009 to 2011 where they were pretty bad moments. And I just think probably the lowest I felt was, I think probably around just before, about 1996, I put on a lot of weight, and I just heard someone say, "Is that the fat one or the slim one?" And I knew it was me. I was the fat one, and I just kind of, I've always wanted, you know, I've always prided myself on having a bit of self-respect, and then I kind of like, when you hear someone say that about you, you kind of think, really, is that they're talking about me there? And I kind of like, again, it kind of fueled me to kind of get myself fit. So within 5 months, I'd gone from 16 stone to 12 stone. I was training 3 times a day, but that was probably the lowest period of my life. The lowest period on the table was probably in 2006, I think, when I walked out against Stephen Hendry. I wasn't enjoying my snooker then. I had a lot of off-the-table personal things going on, and I never really enjoyed playing. And that moment when I walked out of him, I just couldn't take being out there. I didn't like my life. I was very unhappy. And being under that sort of scrutiny, if you like, I just couldn't handle it. And I walked out against Stephen Hendry. And but then again, you know, that was a lesson. I got punished for that, and I just thought, well, don't do that again. And I kind of had to deal with my personal life in a way, so it forced me to kind of, a little bit like with the drink and drugs, I had to go to the Priory. I had to deal with it. Couldn't continue playing snooker like that. And the personal issues that I'd going on in my life in 2006, I couldn't carry on playing snooker and have them issues going on off the table. So it forced me to deal with that, because I wanted to play snooker. That was my job. That's what I do. That's something I never wanted taken away from me. So yeah, that was probably my lowest sort of time in my life on the table. This geezer's having an orgasm, you know what I mean? Like, he's been with his missus for 20 years. He's forgot what it's like to have an orgasm.
What makes me sad hearing that is that's like your prime, 19 to 25.
Yeah.
Is there anything you could say to anyone so that they don't spend their prime years on the floor?
Yeah, I just think, I always said, you know, I had 5 years there where I just went missing, and I had another 2 years where I went missing. So in a way, although I've been a pro 30 years, I'd probably only say I've been present in about 20 of them. I've had 7, 8, 9, 10 years where I've kind of just not been there really. I've been there, but I haven't been there. And I just think for any young person coming through, you know, when people go, "Oh, if I had my time over again, I wouldn't change anything." I'm like, really? I'd change so many things, and I just think I think my dad going away fucked me up really, and it's a shame really, because I think he was my anchor, and if I was being naughty, he would quickly put me in line. When he went away, I just thought, fuck, I've got no one to put me in line here. I can just do what I like when I like. I had a bit of money, no one could tell me what to do. and I just quickly got involved with the wrong people. So I think for anyone younger, and I likened it a bit like Mike Tyson when he first came on the scene. He had the two managers, the two Jewish guys, and they were good for him. He had custom art, he had a good team, and then Don King slipped in, and all of a sudden he's hanging around with the wrong people, and you know he attracted people in his life that didn't really have his best interests at heart. And I just think it's about having the best support network you can, especially as a sports people, because that's all we do is do sport, you know, and then there's people that either want to support that or take advantage of it. And I think as a sportsman, you need to surround yourself with people that are just there to put you first and your interests first. And I see it on the snooker circuit. Like someone like Stuart Bingham has become a very good friend of me. He's got an amazing support network which allows him to go and play snooker and do as well as he does. He's got a great manager, he's got a great family, he's got a great setup, and you just see that enables him to be the best snooker player he can be. I didn't do that. I chose lots of wrong people. I managed to eventually get to the good people, but if I'd known then what I know now, and I always said to Steve Peters, I wish I'd have met you when I was 19. I wonder what I could have achieved in this game. He went, don't start something like better late than never. You know? Because I'm always one of them. I wish I could have done. Wish I could have done it. Wish I could have done this. Steve's like, accept, move on. Accept and move on. So I just think having a support network, having a good partner, having a good manager, having good role models is so important. And yeah, it's, I think just having all that, because I didn't have that, and I'd feel so. I'd say what really killed me was I would have everything. I've got 2 kids, girlfriend, whatever, but I'd be in certain environments and I'd feel so lonely. I'd see other people that had the wife, the husband, the kids living together, and I'd think, that's all I ever wanted. I never wanted, because whenever my mum and dad had an argument, my dad used to disappear for 2 or 3 days. I used to be waiting for him at the window, and I'm thinking, I never want my kids to go through that, but they did. And I didn't want them to do that. I didn't want to put them through that. So I felt a lot of guilt. And I've had therapy for certain things that I thought I needed therapy for, but I never really needed therapy for that. What it was the guilt that I'd left my kids and not been able to be there for them. And I've had to overcome that sort of thing in a way. And now I don't feel guilty because I've let it all out, really. And that was tough. And I look at people like Stuart and other players on the tour, and they've got that great support network. And I used to really envy it in a way, not in a horrible way, but just think, I wish I'd give up 2 or 3 world titles or whatever, just so as I had that, because that would really, you know, that's nice to come home to. But now I don't. I'm 45, my kids are 14, 15, they're enjoying themselves, you know, they've had a great start in life. And now I see this as my chance to now kind of look at the next 15, 20 years of what do I want to do, really. So I probably wouldn't have spoke about it 5, 10 years ago, because it's like what my dad said, don't show no weakness. So you kind of don't really want to show all your cards. But at some point I think it's nice to kind of just let it out at the right time and go, you know what, I've dealt with it, it's there. If someone can get something out of it, if someone's going through that, so it's a little bit like my book, Running, and my first book. A lot of people from my first book have got into the 12 steps and overcome their addictions, and I get so much pleasure from people that come up to me and go, since reading your book, I'm 8 years clean, I'm sober, and I go, wow. And he goes, I got that from reading your book, because he said, I never thought anyone felt like I did. He said, when I read your book and you said how you felt, I was like, yes, I'm not the only person. And I'm like, you know what, so in a roundabout way, by opening yourself up and what you've done and how your past has been, isn't that allowing somebody else to get strength from that. And I think with my running book as well, you know, I get a lot of people go, I'm into running, I'm into this, and it's been a life change. And I just think, wow, you know what I mean? It's like, I get a great joy out of that, do you know what I mean? You know, because it's very hard for me to get a one-on-one with people, but if I do a book or I do like a chat like this, that can get to so many people, and hopefully, you know, that's your way of giving back in a way, do you know what I mean? But it's choosing that right moment to talk about certain things, because if it's too raw and you talk about it, then you think, well, really, you know, maybe that wasn't the right time. But yeah, it's just about kind of, yeah, when is right to talk about certain things, I suppose.
couple of things that fascinate me out of that. A lot of people talk about not getting around the wrong people. So let's help people define the wrong kind of people. What are their traits and habits?
Yeah.
Don't have to mention names, but you know, how do we avoid these people?
I think in a way it's sort of like you want someone that's going to support you no matter what, you know, through the tough times, the high times. And yeah, listen, if you're being a bit of a dick and you get home, you know, you're gonna get told, and you're gonna go, oh right, I've overstepped the mark. But when you're out there doing battle, you're doing something, it's like, you know, support that person, do what he's got to do, and like I said, it's like choosing your moments and your time. So you know, nobody's perfect, but I just think having that person that's behind you, and you know they're behind you. And I see it with certain snooker players; they've got that person that's behind them, and you just think, wow, that's a great asset for him, that he's got a team of people around him that are just there for him. Do you know what I mean? It's all about him, and it's all about, you know, having that support network, and a lot of, you know, some people that I've had, they come to tournaments and all they want to do is take. You know, can I have your waistcoat? Can I have this? Can I have that? Can I have this? Can I have that? And you're like, I'm just here, you know, I'm just here to play snooker, and all they're interested in is sort of like, you know, can you sign this? Can you sign that? Can you sign this for my friend? Can you say hello to my Uncle Terry? And you know, can you come around and give, you know. And you're like, wow, you know what I mean? Can't we just chill out here? You know what I mean? Just have a nice bit of dinner and tea and put the TV on and just have a bit of a laugh. So I think sometimes you just got to like, and it's took me a while because I'm a bit of a people pleaser. So I just I never want to disappoint anyone. And but I've just learned I've probably learned more in the last 5 years than I did in the previous 40. I'm a little bit more, you know, brutal with who I have around me, you know, and are they actually good to have around me, you know, and it's kind of like, so like in a way I'll invite one, you know, I've got 3 or 4 really, really good friends, and I think if I invite him, but then I invite 2 people that, you know, not bad people, but they're just liberty takers really, they're going to affect my good friend. So it's about, you know, I have to be careful who I invite and where that, you know. So sometimes I'll have my good friend with me, but I say to the other guy, look, I can get you tickets, but you know, there's no backstage stuff going on because, you know, it's just not going to happen. So you just kind of have to put people in certain places in a way. And listen, I mean, Steve Peters, when he first started working with me, he'd come in my dressing room, there'd be like 8, 9 people in there, and he went to me, he said, who are all these people? I went, well, that's him. It was like having a rave in my dressing room, right? And he says, you're supposed to be playing a snooker match, you know what I mean? Like, you know, you're supposed to be getting ready for this. And I'm like, yeah, I know, Steve, but I can't say no to him. And in the end, he was like, Ronnie, you know, and it was just like, and it was so hard. So I'd kind of go to a different room to talk to Steve. And then once I finished with Steve, I'd go back to my room and there was like 10, 15 people in there. And in the end, I thought, this ain't no good either, do you know what I mean? So I kind of just, when I'm at tournaments now, I just have me and Steve, and I really get the best out of Steve, and we have a fantastic relationship. Or then another tournament, it'd be me and Damien, and that's great, and we have a fantastic relationship. And, you know, they're my 2 most important people, if you like, when I'm at snooker. You know, Damien is unbelievable, and Steve is unbelievable. Damien, painting guy.
Oh,
Damien,
yeah.
So, yeah, he loves snooker, and he's been a fantastic friend to me, and it's so different with Steve. It's very
Damien.
Yeah.
Damien Hirst.
Yeah. With Steve, it's very like, you know, machine-like, but with Damien, it's like, you're a king. Who cares? You know what I mean? Like, it'll come when it comes, and that's just because he's creative. You know, he'll go and paint when he's feeling creative, and if he's not feeling creative, it's like, it's not happening today. And he always says, I don't know how you do it. At 2 o'clock, you've got to play. He said, but you might not feel like playing at 2 o'clock. And I go, I know. He says, I just couldn't do that. He said, and all these people watching you as well. So he totally gets it. Because, you know, I play snooker in a creative way. And some days I don't feel like being creative. And I'm not a machine. So it's very hard for me to go out there and go from creative person to machine-like. But I've had to learn that because it's the nature of the sport. You know, a sport demands discipline from you, you know, like to do things when you don't actually want to do it, you know. People paid their money, you know, I don't feel like it today, I can't do it. It's different for Damien, he can pick and choose when he does, but, and I'd love to have that option, and that's what practice is like. Some days I go in, I have a 20-minute rule, If after 20 minutes I'm not enjoying it, cue goes away in the case and I go down to the restaurant and I eat lovely food and I read a book and I have a laugh and I have a wonderful day. Because if it ain't good after 20 minutes, it certainly ain't gonna be good after 2.5, 3 hours. So I kind of learned to sort of like minimize the shit, if you like, you know, and just kind of, you know, if I can just have 10% of shit and 90% of good, I'm gonna have a good life, you know. And if you look at over a 10, 15, 20 year period, I'm better off managing my life like that and probably will get the best out of myself if I just make sure that, you know, there's much more good times than there are bad times. So, yeah.
All right. You did say earlier that some people say, I wouldn't change anything about my life, and you went, maybe one main thing you'd change?
For sure, I would never have picked up a drink. And I always think for any youngster out there, don't.
Yeah, where's the upside in that?
Yeah, there absolutely is no upside. Don't, you know, try not smoke, don't drink, all them sort of stuff. Keep yourself fit. So yeah, I mean, I just think lead a healthy life. You know, study successful people. You know, don't necessarily have to be in your sport. Steve Davis was a great role model for me. Michael Jordan, he was a basketball player. But again, I kind of changed the way I approached snooker through watching Harry approach his basketball. You know, he was an athlete. You know, in bed early, eating the right foods, and I thought, well, why should I be any different? You know, you listen to Jeff Bezos. He likes to be in bed, gets his 8 hours sleep, likes to do, you know, doesn't like to pack up his diary. And I just think, well, you can learn. He's a successful person, so I can learn something from him that I can apply to my own life. And I just think, just read, you know, just tuning up. It's like a Ferrari, it needs tuning up, and sometimes just a little tweak here and there can make all the difference, you know. And I just think
down the A1.
Yeah, down the A1. Yeah. And I just think, yeah, so there's a lot of things I would have done differently, you know, like not drinking and I probably, it's a bit late now, but I probably wouldn't have took snooker up either. That was another mistake.
Should we just cut?
No,
yeah.
I'm being honest with you. I mean, I always say to young kids and their parents come up to us, I said, don't let him play. I said, don't let him play this game. My own kids, I was like, you're not playing snooker. I said, if you decide to play snooker, you're on your own. I said, because I'm not supporting that. It's a bad sport. It can cause you a lot of damage. Unless you're Stephen Hendry, Steve Davis, John Higgins, Mark Williams, me, Judd Trump, Selby, Robertson, forget it. The others are wasted, you know, it's just a waste of a life. And even some of them names that I've mentioned to you, even some of them I just think, yeah, they're good at what they do, but if they could equally be good at something else, I would have said, go for the other thing. Because I just think snooker is just a really, really tough sport. You know, you're stuck indoors, there's no natural light, draw the curtains, pitch black. You're in there for 5-6 hours. You don't talk to anyone because you're focused and you've got to concentrate. Any little bit of concentration, you can ruin your day if it's broken. And you just think, hey, that's not healthy. Do you know what I'm saying? That's not a good way to spend your life. You know, if you look at a lot of snooker players, they don't know how to have a conversation because they don't talk. And you just think, really, life's all about, you know, getting the buzz and the joy of life. So for me, I've kind of detached from snooker. You know, for the last 20 years, they don't see me at a venue. A lot of players go, what do you do? And I'm like, well, I have a life. You know, I like to enjoy doing other things. You know, I can turn up at a match at 2 o'clock. I'm on at 2, but at 1:50, I put my shirt and tie on. I don't need to practice. You know, I'm not that bothered. You know, you know, I've been playing this game for 30 years or whatever. You know, if I ain't ready now, you know, another 20 minutes on the practice table and another this, and it ain't making no difference. So I kind of, I've kind of learnt to just sort of, like I said, you know, I wouldn't have chose snooker. I probably would have chose golf. I probably would have chose Formula 1 or some sort of driving thing. I love driving. I just think, you never feel unhappy driving a car at speed and sort of getting the grip round the bend. So I think I would have chose a different sport or a sport that allowed me to be more at home, you know, so the travelling can be hard with snooker. So like if maybe you're a footballer or something, you know, you get to stay at home Monday to Friday, you go away for the weekend. Yeah, that'd suit me down to the ground, you know. I'm now down to one person that I talk to at World Snooker, and I've told him that if he comes up and starts sort of like pushing too much, I said, I won't talk to you either.
love it. Let's do a snooker quickfire, and then let's do the main quickfire.
Yeah.
So, in an interview with the BBC, Ronnie, the quote, if you look at the younger players coming through, they're not that good really. Most of them would do well as half decent amateurs, but not even amateurs, they are so bad. Was that something you said in emotion, or did you mean that, and what did you mean?
Yeah, do you know what it is I kind of look around and I just think, where's the next crop of players coming through? And I think, well, when I was a kid, you know, you kind of like, you dedicated your life to just playing snooker. Whereas a lot of them now, they're on their phones, they're having a laugh, they're chatting with their mate, they're hitting a few balls, and I just think there's no quality in their preparation, you know. And I used to be like that a little bit, not a lot, but now and again, and it wouldn't feel right. But these guys are doing it every day of the week, and I'm like, you can't become a brilliant at what you do if you're approaching your practice like that. What you want to practice like that, you want to live your life like that, and then when it comes to playing a match, you want to then become serious and you want to become disciplined. And it just doesn't. It's not like turning a tap on. It's like you have to train yourself in practice and in your preparation to be able to perform in the match. So it becomes like second nature. And I just kind of just thought, you know, this is a sport that I love, and I just want to, and I see a lot of talent out there going wasted, and it was just kind of like my way of like, hopefully, because what worked for me was someone doubting me, someone saying, you know, Ronnie's not going to do this, Ronnie's not going to do that, and that doubt I used to think, I'm going to prove you wrong, and I just thought, well, if that worked for me, I'm hoping that by me saying what I said would definitely hit a note. If there's 20 people out there with the ability to be the best, maybe 10 of them will take it in a negative way, but there'll be 10 that will go, you know what, I'm going to show him. That's just what I needed to hear. Yeah. And it was great because I played Jordan Brown, I call him JB. Just trying to make the snooker players sound a bit cooler. You know, like in golf they go JB, J or TW. In snooker it's like, you know, Dave. Martin Gould, Dave this, yeah. So like I like to shorten their names a bit. So when I played JB, Jordan Brown, in the final of the Welsh, and he beat me, and I said to him, I said, look, you played unbelievable, fantastic. And he went, you know what? He said, and I had a great chat with him, and he said, you know what? He said, the one thing that drove me on to want to be in it was when you said the people outside the top 50 couldn't play. He said, and that inspired me, and I went, brilliant, job well done. I mean, that guy used to work in a petrol garage, and he used to go to the club, and he'd hit a few balls, like I said, have a chat, have a laugh. But he said, since that moment, he said, I'm 5 hours, 6 hours a day, and I'm thinking, I want to play Ronnie, I want to prove him wrong. Yeah. And he goes and wins the tournament. So for me, it got the desired route. 10 of them will still think I'm an arsehole. The other 10 are thinking, you know what, I'm a much better snooker player for what Ronnie said. So, you know, I'm only interested in the ones that want to do well and take the positive from it. The other 10, they'll moan about anything. So you're kind of like, you know, it had the desired effect. And for me, I mean, I love the game, and there's a few players on the tour that that should be winning and doing better, and they're not, and it's a shame, really. Do you know what I mean? So, like I said, you know, it was the timing of saying certain things. I wouldn't have said that 15 years ago, but I can kind of say it and get away with it, and everyone's going to laugh at it. Bit of a joke. I'm kind of being a bit serious, not serious. It's like, you know, I can't lose by anything I say, really. Do you know what I mean? When it comes to the snooker world, you know, obviously I don't go in there and I'm not negative and I'm not this. It's kind of all said in a bit of fun, but also, like, you know, there's a little dig there, you know, but in a nice way. You know, I'm trying to sort of get the best out in people, really, you know. And yeah, sorry for the ones that got offended, but happy for Jordan Brown.
So in our research, it's estimated that you've made over £12 million in snooker winnings. Do you keep count of the money? Do you have? Did you even know that?
No, not really. No, I never really look at anything like that. You know, like the statistics of snooker. You know, like I said, I always played just for the love of the sport, to try and win the titles, and just for me, it's just I like playing. You know, I like competing. I like performing. I like entertaining the crowds. I might say entertaining the crowds. I like the buzz that I feel when there's a crowd. If I'm on it, I know deep down that they're enjoying it as well. You know what I mean? Because if I'm having a good time, I know they're having a good time, and I know, because I've seen a lot of snooker players, and I know that they don't do it how I do it, and I just think, well, that's nice to be able to let other people. So that's why I love doing the exhibitions. I go to a club and it's like this dirty old club, because that's what snooker clubs are. proper grimy, but I love them because
Yeah.
it takes me back to when I was a kid and I was in these dark snooker halls where you could smell the carpet, the this, the that. And I go there and there's like 150 people all sitting there and they're all dressed up, they're all looking forward to the night, and I think you're going to get a good night tonight. And I go bang, 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 and you can introduce them going, oh, oh, oh. And when I'm hitting the ball, it's like making a lovely noise, and then I open the balls up and I put it down there and they go, oh, and you're like, and I'm enjoying it. Because I'm thinking, this geezer's having an orgasm, you know what I mean? Like, he's been with his missus for 20 years, he's forgot what it's like to have an orgasm. And yet he's come to watch me play snooker, and this geezer's getting really excited. And I see him at the end of it, and they go, oh mate, that's unbelievable the way you hit that. And, I've watched everyone play, but no one does it like, you know, I go, and I get it, and I love that he's paid maybe 70, 800 quid for a ticket. And I think, that's a cheap night. He's had a great night, he's gone home for wonderful. And that's a great feeling to be able to do that. It's like actors, they go on TV, they do what they do, but when you get on theatre and in stage and you've got a live audience like that, and it's not televised, but it's just raw, and you can do stuff that I do in an exhibition, I'll get excited by that, you know. I love that feeling, you know.
Yeah, you can see that.
Yeah.
Right. Tony Knowles says, you're not the best snooker player ever. So do you think you are?
No.
And if you don't, who do you think?
No, he was right. He was right. Yeah. John Higgins for me is the greatest snooker. Listen, it's very hard for me because growing up, Hendry was my hero. Davis was my hero, but Hendry, kind of, you couldn't ignore what Hendry done in the sport. So he kind of become my new hero, and I went, you know what? He is the king of snooker, and if I didn't have that admiration for Hendry, because I was a kid looking up to Hendry, I was 14, he was 21, he was world champion. I was like, he's who I want to be. Me and John Higgins were the same age, but if John Higgins was 7 years older than me, I probably would have said John Higgins is the greatest snooker player I've ever seen, because he, like I said earlier in the interview, he's the most complete player. If you was going to build a snooker player, John Higgins would be what you would build. You'd go, you know what, he's going to last the test of time. He's definitely going to win the world championship. He's definitely going to be number one. He's definitely going to, when he's on, he's unplayable. You know, it's like if you was a betting man, bet on John Higgins for the rest of your life, because you'd be a very wealthy man. But if you start to bet on Ronnie, you know, it could go good, it might not go good. It's a bit of a risk. Like, you'll have a few sleepless nights. You don't get that with John Higgins. So when Tony Knowles said that, and Graham Dott said that as well, I was like, yeah, I totally agree with you. I can't not, you know, but what I've kind of managed to do, and I thank John Higgins because he's inspired me to be a better player. I looked at him and thought, I'm never going to be as good a safety player, but I kind of need to try and improve in my safety to, you know, if he's at 10, if I can get to 8, that's enough. Whereas before I was at 2 or 3, I need to get that up to 8, you know what I mean? And he's inspired me to become a better player, to become a different player, to become a better match player. But yeah, I totally agree. John Higgins is probably the best player that I've ever played. But it's hard because obviously Hendry's my hero, and I've took some good ideas off of Hendry, but I was early in my career then, and Hendry was in his peak, whereas John Higgins, we're both the same age, so we kind of like, no one had an advantage because we were both, it's like a Formula 1 car, the two Mercedes going head to head. You know, there was no one had an advantage. We both come up in the same era, and yeah, for me, he's the most complete player I've ever seen.
Great. Right.
And I don't feel bad about saying that, you know.
No.
Maybe I couldn't have admitted that 15 years ago, 20 years ago, because like you say, that would have been a weakness. That would have been like, probably that's not the sort of thing I'd want John Higgins to have known when he was 21, 22, because he would have probably gained strength from it. But now I'm 45 and I don't really care. I can sit down at a table and go, you know what, John, you actually were a better player than me. I know I've got more tournaments and won whatever, but I just think that's just through, I don't know what it was through. Maybe I'm a better player than I give myself credit for. I don't know. And maybe my style of play, I could beat certain players a lot easier than John Higgins' style of play. You know, like I'm a bit like, I'm either on or I'm off. I either blow people away or I get blown away. So I think, yeah, I can't quite work out why he hasn't won more than me, but you know, we've both done pretty well.
Yeah, I bet if you ask some of them who's the greatest player that's ever lived, they'd say you.
Yeah, I mean, like if you said, like, you know, John Higgins, yeah, he'd probably say, you know, me, Hendry, maybe, you know, a lot of people say maybe it's Selby. I don't really know, but yeah, I think a lot of I think a lot of the snooker fans that don't really know the intricacies of the game would probably all say me. But then if you get people that really know the game, they would probably either say me, Hendry or Higgins. Us three would be the three that they would kind of, you know, if you had like 100 people, you probably get 30 say Ronnie, 30 say Higgins and 30 say Hendry and whatever, you know. So yeah, maybe a lot of the snooker fans kind of like, because of my style and like I said, the way I do it, and they just go, oh, I love the way Ronnie plays, and they all want to play like me, they all like the rocket and this and that. And so I get that vote, if you like, but if you just break it down into pure skill, tenacity, temperament, you know, I'd say Higgins and Hendry have got a much better temperament than me. I've just managed to sort of, I think it's my Italian sort of passion that has kind of drove me through, and I've played from emotion. Most of the time I play from emotion, whereas John and Hendry, they're like tough Scotch people. They're unbreakable.
Yeah.
You know, whereas me, I fall apart, but then I build myself back up, and I fall apart, and I build myself up, and everyone's like, oh, has he done that one week? And then he looks all right this week. Yeah. You know, so, but, you know, I think that's what kind of draws people to give me the nod, if you like, of being the best player that's ever played, I suppose. Yeah.
You talked about betting earlier. Have you ever been offered like a bribe? Is match fixing a big thing? Yeah, years ago, someone said to me, oh, I need to meet you. He's the sort of guy you don't want to get on the wrong side of. And I was like, because you were a people pleaser, you said yes. I went, yeah, of course. And he was a friend, you know. I've you know, over the years you meet people, and you know, obviously, like where my dad has been, I've kind of got everywhere I go. Oh, I spent 5 years with your dad, and he's like lunatic, basically. I'm like, oh, how you doing? Yeah, my dad spoke about it. He said you're a really lovely guy. He said, anytime you're here, I'll do that for you. Don't worry. And I'm like, okay. So I've got uncles everywhere, and yeah. So like one guy phoned me. He said, Nick, want to have a meet with you over the forest? And I thought, oh shit, what have I done now? And then we went for a little walk, and he went, you know, does he ever? I went, no, mate. I said, I couldn't do it. I said, my career would be over. I said, and plus, it's not in me. I said, I don't play snooker for money. I'm not interested in it. I just feel so dirty. And he went, no, it's fine. So I thought, at least I haven't upset him or like done something I should have done. So yeah, it was just that. And that was a long, long time ago. I'm going back now, maybe 25 years now. So, has snooker got more clean since then? Was that common? Or?
No, I don't think it was common at the time. I don't think, you know, I don't think snooker. Well, you had the Franciscos, Sylvina. I think Peter, wasn't it? Peter Francisco. He got done for match fixing. I think that's the only one I can really remember. Yeah, that one. And then I think a lot over the last 10 years, where a lot of the players, they struggle to make ends meet, basically, a lot of the players. So it's tough for them on tour, you know, and sometimes like they have to do things just to kind of survive. You know, some people will kind of go to China and buy a load of cheap T-shirts and bring them back and make their money just to pay for their trip. Some people will get loads of cigarettes and stuff it in their cue case and get home and go, here, that's it, pays for their trip. It allows them to play snooker, because if you don't win tournaments, you know, you don't really get paid basically. So it's tough for a lot of them, and I think there was a time where a lot of the players were taking bungs or fixing matches, and then I think after the Stephen Lee thing, I think they kind of put out a strong message that, you know, anyone that does mess about and gets caught, your career is over. And I think now snooker is a much cleaner sport for it, and yeah, so I think it's sort of, you know, but I never like to criticise someone, because I don't think anyone, if someone's driven to lose a match to make money, there's a reason why. You know, if they were comfortable and they didn't have money problems or whatever, they wouldn't even think about doing that, because, you know, most snooker players love the game and they want to win. But unless you know someone's circumstances and what their predicament is, and I do, you know, I know a lot of these snooker players, it's like they're struggling financially, you know, it's not easy. And, you know, so I never feel like, you know, that they've done something wrong.
Yeah, don't judge.
don't judge unless you've walked in that guy's shoes, you know, and I'm around it, so I know what they're going on, and I feel a bit sorry for a lot of the players, but it is what it is, and you know, they sign up to play, and they know what they're in for, you know. So, but yeah, nah, it's a lot cleaner now than it was because of the Stephen Lee 12-year ban. I think that kind of like scared everyone a little bit. Yeah.
So, your first World Championship win, I understand you wore pink nail varnish.
No, that wasn't at the World Championships. No. That was just recently. I think
this is why we always check.
Yeah, this was for something. I don't know what it was for. See, my memory is so bad. But it was going back October. My mate said, "Would you wear pink nail varnish for some?"
Was it cancer research?
I think so. Was it cancer? Yeah.
Do you know, Harry?
Breast cancer. I said it was for breast cancer. Yeah. And he said, "Would you take a picture and put it on social media?" I went, "Yeah, of course I will." I said, "Actually, I'll play in it if you want." And he went, "That's a great idea." So I just thought, just to create awareness, and I think like 10 years ago I'd have been like, "I'm not wearing pink nail varnish."
Your dad.
But now, yeah. It's like I need to be professional. I like pink nail varnish, and but no, I went, you know what? I don't actually care anymore. So if it helps create awareness, breast cancer for women, and then why not? You know, at some point in your life, you've got to be able to feel like you can give back and not worry about receiving so much, you know. And I've taken so much from snooker that, you know, I'm happy to, like, you know, give up my own gains, if you like, in order to have a bit of fun, to kind of be a bit free with it and go, you know what, who really cares? But then what really was hard was when I was looking down, all I could see was this pink in my eyes. I was thinking, that ain't good. But I thought, I've committed now, I've got to play the whole tournament with it. But as soon as I finished, I was like, I've got to get it off. Because it just kept putting me off. It was like, you know, like I wasn't used to seeing this sort of colour in my face. Yeah. So yeah, that was the story behind the nail varnish.
Great. So I'm going to share with you something I often get nervous about in interviews.
Yeah.
Because I think we must have interviewed maybe 165-ish people, would you say? Loads. And Harry was asking me at the start. And I'm quite similar to you in that I want to get on well with people. I don't want to upset them, get under their skin. Yeah. But of course, sometimes those kind of questions make good interviews. Yeah. And Harry was saying, you know, how do you like to prepare for an interview? And I want to ask some questions that are a bit edgy. Yeah. But I'm kind of always scared of the moment maybe when I upset someone. I mean, we've got to know each other, so that helps. But maybe you upset them, or maybe they just get up and leave, or whatever. So when we were researching, obviously we find all these interviews with you putting on an Australian accent, making noises, just doing one-word answers and grunts and things. And I'm thinking, Ronnie doesn't do that for me.
No.
Tell us about those sort of random interviews where you clearly weren't asked.
I'm actually really good. You know, when I'm talking to people, I like to give value. So when I go snooker,
this is great, by the way.
When I go snooker, I'm not sitting there thinking, I just want to get this done, dust and get out there. I'm thinking, it's so important to me that every person that's come here to watch goes away thinking, that was magic. Yeah. You know, that's what I'm here to do, is provide, you know, I might be a bit quiet when I do mixing. I'm not like Dennis Taylor giving loads of gags, but what I am going to do is I'm going to put on a performance where you go, I've played this game. Fucking hell, that's unbelievable. And they're nudging their mate, going, you see? And that's what I get joy out of. So I like to give like value. Even in my interviews, I'm like, you know what, I can sit here and be a bit cagey, but I'm not a cagey person, so I like to be open. But with that openness, one day I'm going to feel like shit. And that openness is going to sound really shit, and I'm going to say stuff that people are going to go, why does he say that? But I think you can't have the good without having the bad. You can have the robot. The robot's never going to put a foot wrong. You can have the Australian. He's going to be so upbeat, right? Because Australians are upbeat. You can have the Scouser, because they're really funny and they can make... But I'm like me, and when I talk like me, I can be very positive, very upbeat, but I can be very down on myself as well. And what I really struggled with was at the snooker was that I would do like something and I'd get a letter or an email every week. You done this, and they'd use certain words which were quite threatening. And I'd take it quite personally. I'd think, you know what, I've been a naughty boy here. And then in the end I started to monitor my own behaviour. And I thought, I'm not really doing a lot wrong, I'm just saying how I feel. And if saying what I feel is really bad, then maybe I shouldn't play snooker no more, but I love snooker. And my mates see that, and I said, I keep getting these letters through, and all that sort of stuff. And then in the end, I went, I'm going to be Australian because they don't like me being me. So I might as well try and be somebody else that's really positive because they want someone that's positive. So I'll go Australian. So I was Australian, mate. We're up for this today, mate. We're gonna smash the English, mate. They're going down. So I kind of found when I went into that mode, I was super positive. So I thought there's nothing they can do with that because I'm positive. The robot. You can't, we're living in a world of technology, AI, everything. We're going to be controlled by robots at some day. That person that's at the checkout, she don't realise that a robot's going to be doing it. So we're all good with robots. We want a robotic society. So I was like, yep, no, I'm here to play snooker and it's very good. So you can't put a foot wrong when you talk like that. So I thought, they want a robot, they can have a robot. They want positive, they can have Australian. I'll go anywhere they want to go with it, but they don't want Ronnie. They don't want Ronnie.
If I was the interviewer, I'd just...
They don't want Ronnie, so whatever we give them has not got to be Ronnie. I can go Thai, I can go Chinese, I can do anything. I can't really speak Spanish, but I could learn. But I just kind of thought, you know what? So I had to kind of like put on these different sort of things, and it worked really. And then it got to the point where my mate was going, what's going on? And I told him, I said, look, I've got these fucking drive me mad at World Snooker. I said, don't stop sending me letters and emails. I said, I ain't got time to reply to him. I said, because I just want to play snooker. He went, get me your contract. I went, what do you mean? He went, I'm going to give it to my mate, he's a lawyer. He said, we're going to check it out. He said, next time you get a letter, give it to me. So I went, all right. So I got him on my contracts and they looked at it and they went, da-da-da-da. So I'll get a letter from World Snooker. Da-da-da-da-da. So I went, here, here's the letter. I said, they've sent me one. So he said, all right, we're going to send one back. Anyway, it was like chapter and verse out the Bible, like the one they sent back. We point you to this and that and that and the history of that thing and all that. And I read it, I went, wow. I said, that's a beauty. I got really excited. I thought, lovely, let's see what they say to that. Anyway, they get the letter and they send one back and they went, we are not going to respond to your letter because you obviously haven't got lawyer's advice. I didn't know that you had to get lawyer's advice if you'd sent a letter from a lawyer. But I thought, this is great, I'm learning. I'm learning here, so now they've kind of had to go and spend some money on good lawyers, because these are good lawyers. Anyway, it happened once or twice. Anyway, letters stopped. It was like, you know what? It was too much hassle for them. And I just realised that they were prepared to push me because they knew that they could. But then once they realised that they had someone that was bigger and stronger than them, they thought, you know what, we can't push these people around there because he's got his shit together, mate. He's got a proper little team on the firm. And now I don't get no letters. Actually, it's quite a pleasant world now, and I was ready to turn away from snooker because I thought, I don't want to deal with this bullshit. Don't bring me bullshit, you know what I mean? Like, 1 minute I'm good for the game, 1 minute I'm shit for the game. Like, make your fucking mind up. Yeah. You know what I mean? You can't have it both ways. But they want to whack you when they want to whack you, and then they want to like nosh you off when they want to nosh you off. So I don't like using that word, but you know what I mean? Let's have it right.
I've actually never heard of that.
They want to get their tongue up your arse, basically, and just fucking, and you think, hold on a minute, just be consistent. Just be consistent with me. Yeah. And I just got fed up with all that stuff. So anyway, the lawyers have been great, and the lawyers are still there waiting just in case. And it's fantastic. I feel like I've got angels on my shoulders, just kind of. So basically, I like it. I can go and not cause trouble, but do what I want, knowing that I've got a good team of people behind me to go, you know what, this isn't a problem. This is our game. So, it's like, you kind of have to, it's a bit of an unfair fight if Mike Tyson's going to fight me. You think, well, hold on a minute, he's a snooker player, you're a professional boxer, it's not. So that's what they were doing to me, and now I've got Klitschko in now, or I've got Muhammad Ali fighting, so it's a fair fight now, so they can send me as many letters as they like, but be prepared to get a few back. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? And be prepared to go to your lawyer to get advice, because some silly little letter that you think you're being clever with and using these little like threatening words ain't gonna work. So I kind of like, that's what I'm saying, when you get a good team of people around you start to realise, don't, it's not, I'm not prepared to have people, abuse their position, if you like, and it's just about being professional, and I'm really like playing the professional route now because I've got a team of people around me that are professional, and it's like I'm very resourceful. Whereas before I wasn't. I was just on my own, kind of quite insular and just play snooker. But now I'm resourceful. It's like, you know, whatever way they want to play it, I'm up for it, mate, you know. So it feels like I'm in a much better place to be able to deal with whatever comes my way, really. That would never work for me, because I kind of like to kind of make my own choices, make my own decisions, and I don't really want to have to get permission for someone to say, can I do this, can I do that?
You've called Barry Hearn's management of snooker a dictatorship. Do you think things can change?
Probably not, but I understand why he does what he does and the way he runs his business. And I think he enjoys sort of like the thought that people are dependent on him, you know, that they feel like they've got nowhere to go. It's like, this is what I'm putting on offer, and you're only going to play for me, and you're not going to be able to do it, and you've got to get permission from me to do anything. And I think he kind of enjoys that he's got people under that sort of, in that place, if you like, and that would never work for me, because I kind of like to kind of make my own choices, make my own decisions, and I don't really want to have to get permission for someone to say, can I do this, can I do that? So before, as I kind of find it a bit sort of like I was being suffocated in a way, and I kind of like started to educate myself on business, because I thought, I'm not going to be able to play snooker and just do this and be happy. So I started to look into different opportunities. So I started to work with Eurosport, I started to get involved with property, I've got a really good, like I was saying to you before, an advisor that I invest in certain things, and you know, I kind of do lots and lots of other stuff. And I kind of feel like that basically I've learned that it's just the way that model is designed, and some people fit into that workforce really well. I happen just to not fit into that workforce really well, but I still wanted to play snooker. So I've kind of got it to a stage now where it doesn't feel like a dictatorship. I'm not bothered about, you know, the carrots that get dangled. If you do well in this, you'll get in that. I don't want to be in that. I don't actually care what tournament I'm playing. They're all the same to me. It's just a place, they provide a platform for me to go and play snooker, because that's what I enjoy doing. I don't care if I win or lose, because I've created this fantastic life outside of snooker where I can have freedom, where I can kind of go, well, can we do this, can we do that? And it's not a problem. In fact, it gets encouraged, and we want to work with you. And I much rather a conversation of where someone wants to work with me and it's 50-50 than someone says, well, I don't know about that, we'll let you know. And then you're kind of waiting, and then it's a no. And then you go like, we will tell you in the contract that you signed, and you think, hold on a minute here, drop me out with you in your silly contract, you know what I mean? So that's why I've kind of gone elsewhere, and it's been the best thing I've ever done, because actually all the other stuff that I do outside of snooker is much better, much more exciting, and it'll go on much longer. So if I finish playing snooker tomorrow, that's that done. But all the other stuff that I've put in place, like the academies that we're doing in the Far East now, which is fantastic, that's another thing I'm excited about. That's all going to be, once I finish playing, all that's still going to continue. And I took a year out of doing nothing, and I was like, being a snooker player that doesn't play snooker, it's quite a boring life. So now I've kind of created other interests and other things, and now I just get excited every day by what I do. And now I just kind of feel so detached from snooker, in that I don't need it to support whatever I want to do and to enjoy my life, but I just choose to go and play it and have fun with it. And I think that's probably why over the last 5 or 6 years that I've enjoyed my snooker more than I ever have done. And like I said, you know, I'm one of them people that if I'm forced into doing something, I will find a way of how to make my life better. So like I said, you know, certain things happen, and I could either accept it, but I know I'm never going to be able to accept it. So I kind of go, well, I've got to like find my peace and where I'm happy. I've got to find my happy place, and that's what people do. They try to screw me down, but by screwing me down, they just lose me even more, because I'm not one of them that's going to be. It's like Braveheart when he was on the slab. That's what you're going to have to do to me, mate. You're going to have to put me on that slab, and you're going to have to go chop his head off, because if you don't do that, I'm going to keep coming at you, and I'm going to keep fighting, I'm going to keep surviving, and I'm going to keep coming out, landing on my feet. One thing I know is that whatever shit I go through, I end up landing on my feet. It's like amazing. I just think, wow, how did I come out of that? So no matter what gets thrown at me, like with the lawyer situation, that only happened because I surrounded myself with good people, and it took one to know one. So my mate's a very good person, and he knows that I'm a good person, but he's on another level. He's gone, hold on, I can take care of that for you. I've gone, all right, cool. All right. You know, so it's kind of, I always end up finding the right people because I'm actually quite a good guy, and I'm not a piss taker, I'm not a liberty taker. I've got a good heart, my kindness, I can be a bit of a people pleaser, but I've toughened up over the last 4, 5, 6 years. I'm still a bit of a softie, but I don't suffer fools anymore, and life's a lot better for it. And even though I do still think it is a dictatorship, it doesn't bother me anymore because I've removed myself from being in that regime, if you like. So it's kind of hard in a way because I go to snooker and I like, it's kind of like I feel like I don't fit in anymore because everyone's living that life. Like 99% of them snooker players, that's all they've got and that's all they are. And I see the pressure and I see the stress and I see it and I kind of just think, oh God, I don't really want to be around that energy. You know, I don't really want to be in a room full of people that are living that sort of life where they think they've had a result because they've got a few tournaments, but really it's just like, it's a bag of, it's not great, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's nothing, I couldn't get excited by that. So when I see them excited by it and that's all they've got, I find it quite sad in a way. So I kind of I looked at that and thought, I don't want to be one of them. So I need to kind of like create a life where I'm inspired by people, but I still like playing snooker. So, you know, I play their tournaments, I have a bit of fun. Win or lose, don't really give a monkeys, you know, and it just suits me really, you know what I mean, to kind of take it for what it is. But I understand why it's set up how it is, and it's a good way of, you know, keeping everyone under manners. Yeah. And if you're happy to be kept under manners, then you know you'll keep kind of like going along with it. But I was never going to be one of them people, and I never will be. So, you know, what do? You know, you either go Braveheart. That's it, I chop my own head off because I'm not going to live like that, or I'll go, you know what, I'm a survivor, I'm a fighter. It's a wonderful world out there, there's loads of opportunities, and there's people out there that do want to work with me and get excited about working with me, and I kind of, and you know the good ones and the bad ones. You know, a good one goes, yeah, it's not a problem. As soon as they start putting problems in front of me, I'm like, bye. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. So I'm now down to one person that I talk to at World Snooker, and I've told him that if he comes up and starts sort of like pushing too much, I said, I won't talk to you either. I said, you're the only person that can come and talk to me. I said, everyone else is barred. They don't get nothing from me. They've got to go through the lawyers, my friends' lawyers. But I'll talk to you. I said, but if you carry on, I'll cut that one off as well. I said, so you're the last man standing. I said, so don't push it. And he goes, okay, Rod, okay. Oh, all right, cool, as long as we know where we are. And it works well. Yeah. I love the girls that work at World Snooker. There's 2 or 3 of them. I love them, you know, they're good as gold. You know, and I've got a great relationship with the security guys at World Snooker because it's tough job what they do, and we kind of live on that circuit together. So, you know, it's, you know, I'm just a people's person. At the end of the day, I'm a people person. I don't like authority. You put authority in front of me, I'm going to go like a caged animal, mate. But I'm a bit smarter now, whereas before I'd throw tantrums and this and that. Now I go, you know what, let's just be a little bit smart about it. Like, how can I turn this into an advantage for me? You know, and you know, that's how I've changed basically. But that's just come through education. That's just come through surrounding myself with clever, intelligent people who come, Ron, look, there's another way of doing it. Have you thought about doing it like this? And I went, wow. I said, that's a blinder, that one. Do you know what I mean? But you need to be resourceful. Yeah. To have that sort of, you know, to be able to do that, you kind of got to be resourceful, and hopefully I become resourceful for them as well. You know, they might go, Ron, can you do this? And I'm like, you know what, anything with you. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's like you build good relationships, and you know, if I can be of service to them, I am of service, because I know that it's a two-way thing, you know, and that's a good way of. Hopefully, that's explained the situation.
This is still the quick fire round. Oh,
yeah.
That's good. It's good. We've actually got the real quick fire round now.
Okay.
Is there anything wrong with the world that you'd like to see changed?
You know, you get these conspiracy theories. You get people that go, you know, this and that, and I'm like, I'm done with that.
Welcome back if you're listening or watching on YouTube or the podcast or you're TikToking or wherever you are. Right, Ronnie, this is going to be a big challenge. We've got 7 or 8 quick fire questions, about 15 seconds to answer each one. So first off is, what's the best advice you ever remember receiving?
Best advice I ever remember receiving, I've had loads of little gems, but one was from a friend. He said, just drive your own car. And he's a bit of a maverick as well. And it was just like, I took that as just have faith in yourself, go where you want to be, don't be a sheep, don't follow, just do whatever you feel that is the right thing to do.
Talking about driving your own car, what is your favourite car? Just randomly, what one car?
Favourite car, if I could have one, I'd love to own a Bugatti because I just think it's the ultimate car. But as an everyday sort of car, I like the R8 V10. I find it does everything I need it to do and more.
Everything you need it to do.
And more. Yeah.
What's the worst advice you ever remember receiving?
The worst advice, we kind of mentioned it in the interview when people just say, just be positive, just think positive. And my mum does it quite a lot. You just be positive. And I'm like, oh. And then and I know that's shit advice because when I first met Steve Peters, he went, I'm not going to tell you to be positive because that just doesn't work. So I kind of like, that's the one thing that annoys me more than anything.
Okay. So this podcast is called The Disruptive Entrepreneur. Yeah. What does that word disruptive mean to you? Disruptive
means shaking it up. So if I was to, the best way to explain disruptive was when Donald Trump came in and he just total disruption of whatever they thought was...
The world.
Yeah. So like, there's no way he's going to get in. And eventually he becomes an American. And then they go, well, he's never going to get in, for the second term. But he managed to get 75 million people to vote with him. So in a way, he's kind of disrupted whatever everyone thought was the norm, and that people just, just wanted a change, I suppose. And it's like every now and again someone comes along and goes, we're changing the rules of the game now. And everyone goes, you can't do that. And he goes, yeah, we are. And they don't care about the consequences. And I suppose I've been a bit like that in my snooker, if you like, in a way. You kind of ruffle feathers.
I remember when you played left-handed, I was just like, wow.
Yeah.
This is the best thing snooker's ever seen.
Yeah, you're not afraid to kind of just do whatever you feel like you need to do. And it can kind of come across as arrogant or a little bit like cocky in some ways. But I think that's what, that's why people love Muhammad Ali, because he's just kind of like done things that people are like, what? Why would you know what I mean? You put yourself in danger really, but you don't see it as danger. You just see it as kind of like a way of kind of just how you live your life, I suppose.
Yeah. If you could only pick one, snooker or running, one not the other, which one would it be and why?
Running, because I just think it's a lot healthier. I think if you exercise, you get the natural endorphins. You're outside in the sun. You kind of get to train with your friends. It's more of a team. Although it's an individual sport, it's still a team because you train in a group. And I just think it's just the people in running are just a really nice. It's a nice community of people. Yeah.
We've got 2 more.
Okay.
Is there anything wrong with the world that you'd like to see changed?
You get these conspiracy theories. You get people that go, this and that, and I'm like, I'm done with that. I think I live in a great country. I've got great opportunities. I can go to the shops. I can buy food. I can go and buy a house. I can go and go to the running club. I can go to cookery school. I can grab a cab. I can get on a super fast train to London. I'm like, what is wrong with this world? There's plenty of parts of the world that you could be in that you can't do a lot of the stuff that I've just mentioned. So I don't buy into the conspiracy thing that there's something wrong with this world. I just think, I think my situation, I can only speak for my situation. I'm having a very good life and I enjoy the opportunities and I enjoy, that you can't do everything you want to do. There are rules and you kind of just have to I said to a friend once, she said, anti-mask and this and that. I said, well, listen, you have to have rules. I said, because if there was no rules, there'd be anarchy everywhere. I said, we all need to kind of be a bit fearful of doing so. I said, otherwise it'd be like the Great Western out there and become like John Wayne. I'm taking that, that's mine. It's just not going to work.
If there was one person, let's say this interview finishes, and you could have one dream person come in and sit there and you get to watch them from that seat for an hour, who would you love that person to be?
Muhammad Ali.
And alive?
Alive, I would probably say, I'd love to talk to Jeff Bezos. I just think he's quite quite an interesting character, and he's been a bit of a disruptor, and kind of the self-belief to have that vision of what's coming. It's like he's ahead of time, you know. It's sort of like, and I love people that embrace change. I think people that can't embrace change, they scare me, because they end up getting left behind, and you can kind of get left behind with them. So I try and sort of like surround myself with people that want to push the boundaries, that want to be disruptive. I love someone that is a disruptor, because that's what it's about. We change, we evolve, we get better. I'm waiting to see the next disruptive snooker player that comes along and says, you know what, I'm taking this game to another level. And that's what we get excited by, people that are game changers. And I think Jeff Bezos has shown that and made a success of it in a way.
And why Muhammad Ali?
I just think as a sportsman, as a human being, you know, for what he stood up for, you know, he didn't go and fight in the army. He was like, I'm not going to go and fight people that have done nothing wrong to me. I'm not going to accept that I'm a black guy and I can't have the same rights as that white guy over there. I'm not going to accept any of that. I am going to stand up for my people, and I am going to be a spokesman for and I am going to make people believe that they can, you know, be like me. You know, that's, you know, and he kind of didn't sit on the fence. He could have sat on the fence. He could have had a nice life. He could have, like, you know, avoided a lot of the things, but he was like, no. You know, he managed to fulfill an amazing career. So for the boxing fans and everyone that loves boxing, he was just fantastic. For the way he spoke, he's so engaging, so intelligent, and so just pure beauty for me. He was a handsome guy, an athletic guy, a good husband, and just a sort of, you know, if I was a black kid growing up and I had Muhammad Ali as my role model, he would make me think I am capable of anything, you know. Just to see that man was just incredible. And forget any human being to look at Muhammad Ali. Who wouldn't want to be Muhammad Ali? I mean, he's the most amazing human and specimen that I think I've ever seen. You know, he's so handsome, he's so beautiful, he talks so well.
Shall I leave you to it?
Yeah, no, listen. I'm not ashamed. I mean, for me, he's the most amazing human being that's ever walked the planet. You know, and even when he was at his lowest, he'd still get in there, and you go, it's mad. You know, he still just had that fire in his belly. You know, just incredible.
How do you want your career to be remembered?
I think I want my career to be remembered as someone that was a bit disruptive, maybe, that come along, that played from the heart, played with his emotions, kind of wasn't probably tailor-made to play snooker. My temperament probably wasn't suited to it as much, but I kind of managed to come through and play the game in a way that allowed me to be who I am and still be successful, and just someone that's loved their sport. Well, maybe had a bit of a love-hate relationship with their sport, but really loved it a lot more than I hated it. And the hate only come because I loved it so much. So, yeah.
And where are you most active now online? If anyone wants to follow you, I mean, I don't know anyone who wouldn't know of who you are, but if they wanted to follow you, catch a book of yours or something like that, where should they go?
What, when you say like follow as in?
As in social media,
so
I'll
probably engage a lot more on Instagram, because it seems a lot friendlier place. I don't go on Twitter because I just find it's just keyboard warriors, and a lot of people sort of just basically, I think it's just people who've got a lot of time on their hands but haven't really got much going on in their life. So I try and sort of stay away from that. And I do. I mean, there's an app called Strava, which no one really knows about, but it's a bit like Twitter, but for people that like to keep fit. So I engage quite a lot on Strava. I love going on Strava.
You do all your runs on there as well?
Yeah, I don't load up my runs because I haven't got a GPS watch. I just run with this. So a lot of my runs are only tagged on if somebody else has got a GPS watch, and I put that run on. But otherwise, I just like engage with people and stuff like that. So yeah, I kind of stick to them two platforms really, and and that's it really. Yeah.
All right. So this has been The Disruptive Entrepreneur. Thanks for tuning in, everyone on the lives, Facebook, Instagram, Ronnie's, mine. Everyone listening or watching, this has, for me, been an awesome experience. Yeah. And I always can tell looking at these guys. I often just look at, because they come on, Kieran and Harry, been across 160 odd interviews, and I always just get a little look. We're going to go and have a little giggle in the car now about how great this was. So we are. If there was a burger and lobster here, we'd be celebrating right now, wouldn't we? This has been absolutely brilliant, Ronnie.
No, I've loved it. I've loved
Thank you very much. I'd shake your hand if we were allowed, but I'll get sued for that probably.
Cool.
And you'll get a letter from World Snooker.
Ooh. Please.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Ronnie. Really
Lovely. Top man.
it.
Thanks, Rob. Cheers, boys. Thank you.
If you enjoyed this, if you want more, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and remember, if you don't risk anything, you risk everything.